John Travolta became so famous that the very show that made him a star began struggling to keep him. One of the most harmless catchphrases on 1970s television actually came from a dirty joke that was censored. And strangest of all, by the final season, Welcome Back, Kotter almost found a way to remove Kotter himself from his own classroom. When the show premiered in 1975, no one thought a remedial class full of students considered hopeless in Brooklyn would become a television phenomenon. Gabe Kaplan, along with Barbarino, Epstein, Boom Boom, and Horshack, made millions of viewers laugh every week. But behind the laughter were backstage battles, characters who suddenly disappeared and decisions that gradually changed the entire show. Today we are going to explore 20 weird facts about Welcome Back, Kotter that even longtime fans may have never known. And stay until number 20, because John Travolta did not just leave the show that helped make him famous. Barbarino disappeared without the audience even being given a real goodbye. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you are enjoying this trip back to Buchanan High. Starting with number 1, John Travolta almost missed the audition that made his name. Casting director Lynn Stallmaster quickly became convinced that a nearly unknown stage actor named John Travolta was Barbarino. Finding him was not difficult. Keeping him around until audition day was the problem. There is a pretty funny story. When Comac said Lynn was handling the casting, Kaplan misheard the name as Lynn Swan and asked if he meant the Steelers player. Comac simply replied coldly, "No, Stallmaster." Kaplan immediately understood that it was probably best not to joke about sports with this man again. At the time, Travolta needed money and had just received an offer from Broadway with rehearsals about to begin. He planned to take it. To keep Travolta around, Stallmaster got him a small role in the 1975 horror film, The Devil's Rain. It was not a big opportunity, but the paycheck was enough to help him wait for the Kotter audition. The plan worked. Travolta stayed, auditioned, and won the role of Barbarino. But the final obstacle came from his mother, Helen Travolta, an acting teacher. She worried that her son would be typecast and that audiences would think he really talked and thought like Barbarino in real life. According to her, no one had ever become famous by playing a dumb kid from Brooklyn. Travolta took the role anyway, and just 1 year later, he had become a teen idol. Number 2, a teacher created Gabe Kotter. James Buchanan High only existed on screen, but New Utrecht High School in Bensonhurst was very real, and it was the school Gabe Kaplan attended. In fact, the building shown in the opening credits throughout all 4 seasons was the exterior of New Utrecht High School. The school had many famous students, including David Geffen, Buddy Hackett, Scott Baio, along with Moe and Curly Howard of the Three Stooges. But Kaplan's high school years were far from glamorous. Kaplan said that in the 1950s, New York students were divided into 5 groups based on the ability the school believed they had. He was always placed in the 4th group. Kaplan later joked rather bitterly that the 4th group was for the kids considered the worst, while the 5th group was where they put the kids who were always getting into trouble. Kaplan's bright spot at the time was on the baseball field. He was a star on the team and genuinely dreamed of making it to the major leagues. But that dream quickly came to an end after spring training with the San Francisco Giants, where he failed to make enough of an impression to move forward. Kaplan returned east and worked as a bellman at a resort hotel in Lakewood, New Jersey. Touring comedians regularly performed there. After spending a few months watching them perform, Kaplan thought, "I could do this too." That decision led to more than a decade of performing in clubs, before Alan Sachs approached him and everything began to change. But the most important inspiration for Gabe Kotter came from a teacher whose name almost no one knows. According to Kaplan, during his years at New Utrecht, there was only one adult who truly believed he could make something of himself. She was a remedial teacher who still believed in students the system had almost given up on. That image later became the heart of the character Gabe Kotter, a teacher who sees potential in kids that everyone else has already written off. Sadly, the teacher who inspired one of television's most memorable characters never appeared on screen and was never credited. And after 50 years of the story being told, her name has still never been revealed. Number 3, 2 hamburgers, 1 lunch, and a lawsuit no one saw coming. Alan Sachs saw Gabe Kaplan performing stand-up at the Comedy Store. After the show, he walked over, introduced himself, and simply said his name in Kaplan's name. According to Kaplan, the exchange lasted about 30 seconds, in the slowest Brooklyn accent he had ever heard. At the time, Sachs was producing Chico and the Man. That night, he came back with Freddie Prinze and wanted to talk about Kaplan's future on television. Sachs said he would call, and surprisingly, the next day he actually did. In the entertainment business, that was almost a miracle. Over lunch at Joe Allen's, Kaplan asked whether anyone had ever turned a stand-up routine directly into a sitcom before. Sachs could not think of anyone, and right there at that table, the two began developing the idea. At first, the story was about 5 people who had gone to school together, were now 28 years old but still acted like they were 18. They needed someone to connect the group, from a guidance counselor who gradually became a teacher, then a former student who had once been just as troublesome as the kid standing in front of him. 2 hamburgers and 1 lunch later, that idea became a show that ran for 4 seasons and helped turn John Travolta into a movie star. But the story did not end there. Later, the waiter who served that lunch sued for his share of the profits. He was the person who brought out the food and stayed around the table while the 2 men were creating a television series. And somewhere between the burgers, the conversation, and the final bill, he apparently decided that his presence was enough to make him a partner too. Kaplan devoted exactly 1 sentence to the entire matter in his account. He then said that when they sat down to revise the outline, they did it with Allen, not with the waiter. And the waiter, according to Kaplan, he started becoming difficult. Number 4. The cleanest catchphrase of the 70s was actually a censored dirty joke. TV Guide once ranked "Up Your Nose with a Rubber Hose" number 15 among the 20 greatest catchphrases in television history. It sounds completely harmless, so harmless that kids repeated it on playgrounds for years. But that famous line was actually a cleaned-up version of something much dirtier. The real Arnold Horshack, the actual Brooklyn kid who inspired Kaplan, often used a line to tease people involving mellow rolls, a roll-shaped ice cream treat popular in New York in the 50s. According to Kaplan, the original line was, "Up your hole with a mellow roll." The network censors obviously could not leave it that way. They kept the rhythm, the sing-song delivery, and even the rhyme, but replaced the part most likely to make viewers complain. And that is how "Up Your Nose with a Rubber Hose" was born. The line came from the real Horshack, but Ron Palillo's Horshack was not the one who turned it into a phenomenon. John Travolta took the line for Barbarino, and the way he delivered it became the version audiences have remembered for 50 years. Kaplan quickly recognized its appeal. He recorded a comedy single called "Up Your Nose," which reached the lower end of the Billboard Hot 100, then licensed a board game with the entire catchphrase printed on the box. And the story has one final interesting detail. The commercial for the game needed someone to stand in for Travolta. The person hired was Steve Guttenberg, years before he became famous with Police Academy. Number 5. The most famous Sweathog was created in a meeting. Almost every Sweathog was based on real kids Kaplan had known and had brought to the stage for years in his Holes and Mellow Rolls routine. Freddie Boom Boom Washington came from his classmate Freddie Ferdy Payton. Juan Epstein took part of his name from a kid called Epstein the Animal. Arnold Horshack did not even need a name change because that was the real name of a real kid. Vinnie Barbarino, however, was a combination of 2 classmates, Eddie Leary and Ray Barbarino. In the March 1975 audition tape, Travolta was still calling the character Eddie Barbarino before the final name was put together. But Juan Epstein was different. Kaplan's original outline had 5 students, with the Puerto Rican kid and the Jewish kid as 2 separate characters. When ABC ordered the pilot, Michael Eisner thought 5 was too many and suggested combining them into 1 Puerto Rican Jewish kid. That is Kaplan's version of the story. Peter Meyerson, however, told the Wall Street Journal that the idea was his. No one ever really clarified who was right, but the result was that Juan Luis Pedro Filippo de Huevos Epstein was created simply because they wanted to shorten the character list. Robert Hegges, who played Epstein, came from Perth Amboy, New Jersey, had a Hungarian father and an Italian mother. And the most interesting thing is that he based his entire portrayal of Epstein on Groucho Marx. Number 6. The show promoted its own main character out of the classroom. Take another look at the title, Welcome Back, Kotter. Ironically, by the final season, Kotter was barely in the school anymore. The contract dispute between Kaplan and Komack became so tense that Kaplan left after just 2 episodes of season 4. Instead of rewriting every script to explain the absence of the main character, the producers chose to rewrite the entire school. It all started with a retirement. Buchanan High's principal was John Lazarus, a character who had never appeared on screen throughout the show's 4 years. Not a single scene, not a single line. But in season 4, he was still retired to create an open position. Woodman became principal, Kotter became vice principal, which meant he no longer had to teach in the classroom, while Julie became the school secretary. From there, the story gradually moved out of the classroom and into the hallways, the schoolyard, and the area outside the principal's office. Even when there were classroom scenes, Woodman was usually the one teaching. Kaplan had proposed a different direction: graduate the Sweathogs, move Kotter to a community college, and have the 4 guys walk in there on their first day. The idea was not unreasonable. By the final season, Ron Palillo was 29, Robert Heggies was 27, and Lawrence Hilton Jacobs was 25. Being in remedial classes was one thing, but continuing to play high school students at those ages was another. The producers worried that Kaplan's idea would not work, so they rejected it. Kaplan felt that the show was becoming increasingly strange and that he could no longer continue playing a major role in it. The producer's solution was to add a new Sweathog. Stephen Shortridge appeared as Beau de la Barre, a smooth-talking Southern transfer student. But this was not the first time the show had tried adding a character. Angie Grabowski had appeared midway through season 3 and then quietly disappeared. And Jonathan Frakes, who had auditioned for Beau, with feathered hair and a Southern accent, at least got out of that. The writing staff was also replaced by veterans from older and gentler sitcoms. Along with the old writers, the fast-paced teenage humor that had once defined the show gradually disappeared as well. Kaplan left after 2 episodes of season 4, but the name Gabe Kaplan remained at the top of the credits until June 1979. Number 7. 2 future angels, a silent film legend and a future Starfleet officer. Gloria Swanson once auditioned for Welcome Back, Kotter. Yes, that Gloria Swanson. And this was not when she was on her way to becoming famous. Sunset Boulevard had already been released back in 1950. Swanson was 76 at the time, 25 years after the most famous performance of her career, and she came in to read for a sitcom set in a Brooklyn classroom. She auditioned for the principal, a character who was originally written as a woman. The producers later changed the character's gender, and the role became Mr. Woodman. Farrah Fawcett also read for the role of Julie Kotter. So did Kate Jackson. Both were only about a year away from Charlie's Angels, but the role ultimately went to Marcia Strassman. Horshack's mother was almost played by Doris Roberts, years before Everybody Loves Raymond made her a 5-time Emmy winner. But James Komack wanted Ellen Travolta, John's sister, to take the role. So the woman who played Horshack's mother was actually the sister of the actor who played Barbarino. She later also appeared as Fonzie's aunt on Happy Days because apparently Hollywood in the 70s only had about 11 working actors. But the most interesting audition tape belonged to Jonathan Frakes. Years before becoming Commander Riker, Frakes auditioned for Beau de la Barre, the transfer student added in season 4. The black and white tape shows him with feathered hair, trying to do a Southern accent. He did not get the role, but the tape still exists. Decades later, on the set of Strange New Worlds, Anson Mount played the tape in the middle of a scene, pretending it was a message coming from the Federation, then showed it to the entire cast. Frakes had absolutely no idea he was being teased. He even thanked Mount for the tribute. Number 8, the feud was manufactured, but the misery was not. In 1978, Marcia Strassman openly told People magazine that she was miserable working on Welcome Back, Kotter. According to her, Kaplan ran hot and cold. One day he could be your best friend, and the next day he would be completely silent. Strassman said she would rather face open hostility than constantly have to guess what was going on. She hated the series and hoped it would be canceled. But part of the reason had nothing to do with Kaplan. Her 5-year contract prevented Strassman from taking other work. She had to turn down 2 movies and quietly spent 18 months trying to get out of her contract. For 3 years, her role mostly revolved around asking her on-screen husband how his day had been. When Strassman returned after the article was published, people even joked that she should wear a bulletproof vest. Kaplan did not say a word to her. But after reading the interview, he called her. And it was that phone call that truly caused everything to fall apart. What they did not know was that Komack had met with both of them separately and told each one that the other could not stand them. But that was not true at all. Kaplan had even quietly wanted more balance between the classroom scenes and the apartment scenes, which would have meant more screen time for Strassman. Even so, the two did not speak for 15 years after the show ended. In the end, it was their children who accidentally brought them back together. One day in the schoolyard, Kaplan heard someone call Gabriel. He recognized the voice before he even turned around. Number 9. Boston joined late. Welcome back. Kotter premiered on ABC in September 1975, and most of America got to watch a funny new sitcom about school. Boston did not. CVB-TV, the city's ABC affiliate, removed the show entirely from its schedule. At the time, Boston was in the middle of a tense controversy over court-ordered school desegregation. Station executives believed that a primetime comedy about a multiracial classroom in Brooklyn was not what the city needed at that moment. But the reason made public was even stranger. Variety reported that the station was concerned that showing a group of underachieving high school students could have a negative influence on local children. Later, a WCVB spokesman himself stated that the show was not offensive at all, but it still was not aired. Kaplan called it the worst kind of censorship and insisted there was nothing controversial about the show. Komack, however, saw it differently. He said that being banned in Boston was funnier than anything they actually put on the air, even though he himself did not know why it happened. The ban did not last long. When the show became a nationwide success, WCVB quietly put it back on the schedule. According to most sources, that happened around the 5th episode, only about a month later. Years later, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs summed it up very simply. The show never argued in favor of integration. It simply put a multiracial classroom on screen and treated it as the most normal thing in the world. Number 10. The man who named the Sweathogs owned 5% of them. Kaplan did not come up with the name Sweathogs. Neither did Sachs. The name came from Peter Meyerson, a writer from the Bronx who had previously made his mark with a fake band. Meyerson co-wrote the first episode of The Monkees and later wrote 8 more episodes, including the episode where Mike Nesmith switched places with Frank Zappa. So when ABC needed someone to turn the Kotter outline into an actual pilot script, they turned to a writer who was already very good at turning strange ideas into something that could work on screen. He had 1 month. Meyerson came back with a sharper script, effectively introduced all 4 guys, and most importantly, gave them a name that no one had asked for. Kaplan later made it very clear. Meyerson was the one who came up with the name Sweathogs, but his contribution did not stop there. Meyerson continued to be involved in 24 episodes with the credit developed for television by. It may sound like just a title, but in reality it gave him 5% of the show's profits. And years later, the story had a rather strange ending. Peter Meyerson put that very 5% interest up for sale in an online auction. The man who named the Sweathogs eventually put his ownership stake on the internet. Number 11. Groucho Marx could not complete his guest appearance. Kaplan included his Groucho Marx impression in almost every episode. Groucho was his idol, and audiences had become very familiar with the impression. So in season 2, they came up with a very simple idea. Kotter would imitate Groucho, then the real Groucho would suddenly walk in. The scene was planned for the episode Sadie Hawkins' Day, but in the end, it was never filmed. According to Mark Avanier, the show's story editor, everyone believed Groucho was still well enough to appear. Erin Fleming, his companion and manager, also wanted a guest role for herself in a later episode in return. But Groucho was 86 at the time and had to be helped onto the set. The audience, expecting the familiar Groucho with the makeup and duck walk, did not even recognize him. He also could not deliver his lines consistently, so the speaking role was changed into a silent appearance. In the end, even that appearance was canceled. Groucho only sat in Kotter's classroom to take publicity photos with the cast, including John Travolta. But the photos were never released because he looked too weak. Both the cast and the audience broke down in tears. Robert Heggies was affected the most because he had based Epstein on Groucho Marx, Groucho's brother. Heggies admitted that he did not know how he could go back and continue doing that impression. Not long after that, Groucho Marx died in August 1977. Number 12, the executive who once hated the very show he ran. Kaplan never heard it directly. Alan Sachs was the one who brought back James Comac's comment. This might be the worst idea for a show he had ever seen. Yet afterward, Comac signed on as executive producer, directed the pilot himself, and ran the series for 4 years. It seems his enthusiasm just came a little late. Comac was not a network executive. He was an actor who had already had 2 hit shows, which made the first meeting at his Beverly Hills home even stranger. Comac spent most of the time arguing that the ethnic mix of the cast was a distraction. Kaplan disagreed. To him, these kids were basically like our gang. Nobody cared where they came from. A few days later, Comac even said that the network did not want ethnic diversity in the show. This was confusing because ABC had ordered the pilot, and Michael Eisner's only note had created a Puerto Rican Jewish character. Kaplan also never knew who Comac had actually spoken to. Comac even wanted to remove Kaplan from the lead role in the show that was built from his own high school years. While filming the pilot, he also criticized John Travolta so harshly that 50 years later Travolta still remembers it without understanding what he had done wrong. But once the show became successful, Comac stopped giving him a hard time. There was only one exception. Comac wanted to get rid of the line, "I'm so confused," because he thought it made the leader of the Sweathogs look weak. He never stopped objecting to it, but the line remained throughout all 4 seasons. Number 13, one word that could not be rhymed created a hit twice. There is no word that truly rhymes with Kotter, and that almost caused trouble for the theme song. The show's working title at the time was just Kotter, and Alan Sachs wanted a gentle song with a folk sound like his favorite band, The Lovin' Spoonful. By coincidence, Sachs's agent also represented John Sebastian, the band's former leader. Sebastian agreed, but quickly discovered the problem. The only word he could think of that rhymed with Kotter was otter. Instead of writing a chorus around an otter, he dropped the name Kotter entirely and wrote about the story itself. A man returning to the neighborhood he once thought he had left behind. The producers liked the song so much that they changed the name of the entire series to match the song before the first episode aired. And Welcome Back later became a major hit, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, topping the adult contemporary chart and even reaching number 93 on the country chart. The story repeated itself 28 years later. In 2004, rapper Maze returned to music after 5 years away from rap to preach. He built his comeback single around Sebastian's hook, keeping the same title and melody. The song was certified gold, reached number 32 on the Hot 100 and number 8 on the rap chart. The video was even more unusual, with Mace parodying the opening of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, wearing a red cardigan and welcoming everyone to the neighborhood of Mr. Faux Shizzle. So the same song charted twice, 28 years apart, both times telling the story of a man announcing that he had returned. Sebastian still never found a word that rhymed with Kotter, but it turned out he did not need one. Number 14, he found out he had the wrong role in an elevator. Robert Heggies came into audition for Vinnie Barbarino. He read very well, walked out, and was convinced the role was his, and no one told him otherwise. Then came the day he started work. The story is often told that Heggies stepped into an elevator with co-creator Alan Sachs and a man he had never met. Sachs introduced the two. Epstein, meet Barbarino. Heggies immediately corrected him. He was Barbarino. But Sachs corrected him right back. He was Epstein, and the stranger was Barbarino. Some of you who clicked here were probably expecting someone else's voice too, and nobody corrected you. The difference is that I got my role back, baby. But anyway, what Heggies did next tells you the most about the kind of person he was. No arguing, no storming out of the elevator, no calling his agent. Hagee asked just one question. Does Epstein get paid the same as Barbarino? When he was told yes, he said that was fine and went to work. He and the stranger in that elevator remained close for the rest of Hagee's life. Years later, when Hagee had a daughter named Cassie, he asked that very man from the elevator to be her godfather. Number 15, John Travolta became a guest star on his own hit show. $2,000 an episode. That was how much one of the most famous 24-year-old actors in the world was still being paid by the sitcom that had helped make him famous. Picture the fall of 1978. Grease had been in theaters for about 3 months and was on its way to becoming the highest-grossing film of the year. Robert Stigwood had signed Travolta to a 3-movie deal, but he still had to return to Buchanan High to say, "Up your nose with a rubber hose for just $2,000 an episode." The problem was the contract. Travolta had signed a 5-year contract when he was still an unknown stage actor. But that salary clearly no longer made sense after Saturday Night Fever. So the contract was revised. It was not exactly a raise, but more like an escape route. Fewer episodes, more time to make movies, and a new credit at the beginning of the show, special guest star. The polite way of saying that he was now just stopping by. Sources do not agree on exactly how many episodes Travolta appeared in, but most put the number at around 8. He was there for the season premiere, disappeared before the halfway point of the season, and was completely absent from the final part of the series. Barbarino's final scene came when Vinny was working as a hospital orderly and got stuck in an elevator with 4 Sweathogs and a woman about to give birth. Everything was loud, chaotic, and ended with him kissing the nurse. But the strange thing is that no one in the episode knew this was actually goodbye. No farewell, no final moment, and no explanation that the show's biggest star had just left. Barbarino delivered a baby, then never came back. So we have just explored 20 weird facts behind Welcome Back, Kotter, from little-known behind-the-scenes stories to John Travolta, going from an unknown young actor to a Hollywood superstar, then quietly disappearing from the very show that helped make him famous. But now it is your turn. Which detail surprised you the most today? And in your opinion, would Welcome Back, Kotter still have been successful if John Travolta had never played Vinnie Barbarino? Let us know in the comments. If Welcome Back, Kotter was ever a part of your memories, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the stories behind other classic television shows. Thank you for staying with us until the end of the video. Wishing you good health, lots of joy, and we will see you again on the next journey down memory lane.